The gang's with us. Our Republican Roundtable former House of Delegates member Chris Saxman is with us now, the president of Virginia Free, Legislative Affairs Director of the Association of Electric Co-ops, and GOP political analyst Andrew Vehorn with us.
Good morning, John.
And good morning, Andrew. And we're in Dick Black's office, Senator Dick Black's office. He'll be here momentarily at the General Assembly and the State Senate. And Senator from Virginia Beach Republican Frank Wagner is going to be joining us momentarily. Frank Wagner coming to respond to Governor McAuliffe's salvo yesterday on my show, blasting the deal he made with Dominion Power, saying that he now wants to repeal it and send him a bill. He'll sign it. And Frank Wagner is here to offer an alternative view, not alternative facts. I do that. Alternative view. Got a text here from Jeff Ryer in Senator Tommy Norman's office. Jeff says both John Fredericks and Chris Saxman should feel bad about losing Virginia for the Republican presidential candidate. Remember, when you come in second in the state, they give you a statue on Monument Avenue.
Oh, that is so out of bounds.
Ryer, man.
Ryer, the Boston native. Is he from New Hampshire? Is he Maine? What is that accent?
Bounds. Well, Frank Wagner's shutting the door. This is going to be fun. Wagner shut the door. We can only imagine.
We're now barricaded in a bunker.
We're now barricaded in a bunker in Dick Black's bunker with Frank Wagner, who has shut the door and locked it from the inside, and nobody else can come in. Senator, good. And by the way, when you heard that popping sound earlier, that was not a beer. That was Frank Wagner opening up a Diet Coke. Senator, so look, I'm doing my show yesterday, minding my own business. Governor McAuliffe comes in and blasts your compromise you made in 2015 with Dominion Power on the rate freeze, and saying that you basically gave the store away, and that if Chap Peterson put a repeal on his desk, he would sign it, and that the public is being gouged. And so we wanted to give you equal time to respond to that, sir.
Let me tell you something, John. First of all, he signed the bill. Second of all, it's probably the broadest bipartisan support I've ever seen for a bill. Third of all, rates today are less. Look at your kilowatt-hour rates today, and your kilowatt-hour rates you were paying 2 years ago before the bill passed, and they're actually lower today than they were when the bill passed. So, you know, I'm sitting there going, name me one other thing that was cheaper 3 years ago than it is today. And yet your electric rates are actually cheaper. They're held down. So, you know, the reasons we put the bill in are still there. We're still unsure which direction Washington is going to go. I think we're all very, very hopeful that Donald Trump will follow up, and that a lot of these actions that were unnecessary regulations coming out of Washington that would have skyrocketed your electric bills are still not, decisions not made. Nothing's really changed. The only thing that's changed is your electric rate. Your kilowatt hour rate has gone down since the bill was passed. And I'm sitting there going, okay, you know, this is obviously playing politics. You know, it's typical Democrat kind of smear where they sit there and they, whatever way the wind appears to be blowing that given day, they'll all of a sudden switch sides. Somehow he conveniently forgot he signed the bill. Somehow they all conveniently forgot it was probably the broadest bipartisan support I've seen for a bill. But the proof's in the pudding. Look at your electric bills. Name me one thing. Don't you wish I'd gotten hold of your cable bill and lowered your cable bill over the last 2 years? Don't you wish I'd gotten hold of your health care bill and lowered your health care bill over the last 2 years? You name me one thing that's gone down in price over the last 2 years, and I'll tell you. But if he wants to sit here and play politics, you know, that's what he is. He's a political animal. Nothing more, nothing less. He's a political animal. And for him to come in here 2 years after he signed the bill to say that kind of thing, you know, leads me to believe this is obviously clearly just politics. But then that's okay. I mean, we're used to it. You know, I've been doing this now for a few years up here, and I understand how the game's played. And but to sit there and say, okay, if we beat this drum loud enough, you know, maybe people will start to believe, you know, right, that's the case. But the proof's in the pudding. And I look at my electric bill, and the kilowatt hour rate I'm paying today is less than what I was 2 or 3 years ago. And I wish I could look at my cable TV bill and say that was the same. I wish I could look at, you know, my health care bill and say that was the same. I can't do that. So, he is free to say what he wants to say, but consider the source, consider what he's done or not done in the Commonwealth, and I'll rest my case.
Didn't he also get a lot of concessions for signing it for solar energy, renewables, and things of that?
Well, I negotiated in 400 megawatts of solar. I negotiated in that. I also say that all the storm damage from the last hurricane we had, Hurricane Matthew, did not come at the ratepayers' expense. It was negotiated in that any storm like that would have to be borne by the stockholder. So there are a number of things in there. There was some $80 million in going into low-income housing and increasing the efficiencies of those homes so that the people that can least afford to pay their bills will have reduced bills because they'll be using less energy. They've weatherproofed the houses and done those things. So there was a number of good initiatives written into the bill that Dominion agreed to take on, for this. And I will point out that, what's another 2 years, 3 years, and, we'll be back in it. And everybody acts like this is the first time we've ever done something like this. I've been around here a few years. When we went down the road of deregulation, which was all the big wave about 10, 15 years ago, when we went down that road, we said, all right, we're not sure here in Virginia, so let's cap the rates. We're going to cap the rates while we see what's going on in other states, while we start to walk down this road of deregulation. Well, you know what happened? The states that were a little bit ahead of us saw skyrocketing electric rates. And because we capped the rates during this period of uncertainty, some 15 years ago, Virginia was a lot better off, and we still enjoyed the lowest rates of any mid-Atlantic state. Now, flash forward. Here we are with the Clean Power Plan, all of these things rolling out of Washington, which, by the way, McAuliffe's fully supported. Okay, let history repeat. This is a huge Democrat initiative, that this war on coal, which is what the Clean Power Plan was, and this continued war on that. And now all of a sudden, I'm the culprit. You got to be kidding me. Well, the whole reason we did that and the whole transition was because of regulation rolling out of Washington that would have literally added, hundreds of dollars a month to the electric bill to the consumer. Okay. So now he's coming out and he's saying, what? Gee, your bill went down, ergo, I'm a bad guy. You know, and that's typical Democrat nonsense.
Well, he said basically that the cornerstone for your bill was based on the fact that Dominion Power is going to pay these higher costs of Obama's regulations, and now that hasn't happened, so therefore it should be repealed and you should go back to the table. But I got a couple of tweets here I want to read. This from Travis Fain of the Daily Press, who says Senator Frank Wagner seems to be taking credit for lowering your electric bill. I don't think that's correct. Followed up then by Alan Suderman of the Associated Press, who says overall rates have gone down because of fuel cost and pass-through costs for utilities, nothing to do with Frank Wagner's bill.
Well, absolutely.
How do you respond?
I don't think I said rates have gone down. You name me one thing that rates have gone down. But the fuel factor is one of those things that's a pass-through, and fuel prices have gone down. Why have fuel prices gone down? Because of fracking, because of a number of initiatives that have allowed the fuel sources to increase and bring low-cost natural gas in there. The price of coal has also gone down. So those fuel factors, all of those things that the other side tries to block and stop is the reason why your electric bills are going down. And so I'm sitting there going, well, gee, if we increase the supplies of fuel, the price will go down. That's kind of economics 101, and the ratepayers are the direct beneficiaries of that. There's no pass-through cost. So absolutely, it's the fuel prices going down. But remember what many folks on the other side are trying to do. They're trying to block the very things that allow an additional supply of fuel into the state, which will, if we continue to increase and bring the Atlantic Coast Pipeline online, is actually going to provide even cheaper source of natural gas, that's tied up in the Utica and Marcellus shale plays, into Virginia, and allow our utilities to use an even cheaper source of fuel, which should have the impact and may have the impact of driving electric rates down even further. Yeah, I wish those the reporters, right, who have taken this position over and over again would start to look at cable TV bills and start to look at broadband internet and take the same fervent action and start to demand some action in those things, because quite frankly, broadband is as important as any other utility now. It has become essential for obviously shopping, but that's not an essential
Costs have
element.
gone way up, I can say that.
Yeah, and they've gone way up. I wish with the same fervor that they're going after something that's at least lower cost, they'd go after those things that are skyrocketing.
All right, so for
hear a single word out of them.
For Alan Suderman and Travis Fain, Frank Wagner, running for governor, Republican from Virginia Beach, state senator, just threw that salvo down. He said, "Why aren't you going after these other utilities like broadband, where rates go up, and give him credit where credit is due?" Look, you make a deal, rates have gone down. Now you can give 100 reasons why, but your name is on the bill. Rates have gone down. I mean, isn't that? I mean, I don't know how you argue with that, Andrew.
If you're going to be attacked,
I won't discount it. It's the fuel factor.
I mean, it's like saying like saying the quarterback didn't win the football game. It didn't matter. It was the defense that won. Well,
if you want to give them the blame,
the
you also have to give them the credit.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, what they're saying is they could go down even more, I suppose, and we don't know that. I mean, you know, they might go up. You know, what I do know is they're stable now.
Okay,
and,
so rates have gone down. It was your bill, and you want to take
and
credit for
let's
it, right?
go back
That
to a
makes
history
sense.
lesson. Do you realize the Chamber of Commerce? Do you know how many organizations endorse this bill? People seem to forget that. The business community endorse it. The Chamber of Commerce, those that watch out for low-income people. I mean, the line of people that got up in front of my committee and endorsed this bill as the legislation and the right way to go. There must have been 15 people unrelated to Dominion that got up and supported this bill.
And Governor McAuliffe signed the bill.
Yeah, and now, you know, everybody's got amnesia, you know, over what? You know, I wish they'd kind of look at what's going on in broadband and ask themselves in something that's become, in my mind, a utility that's necessary, you know, for a homeowner. I mean, health care is going to be provided on broadband. It just goes, education services are going to be, you know, those kids that are growing up in an education environment may not have access to broadband. Quite frankly, being slighted right now.
All right, so one of your potential gubernatorial opponents, 2017, former congressman from 5th District, Tom Perriello, comes out 2 days ago in opposition to the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. This has gotten bipartisan support, as you know, from everybody from Virginia Beach all the way through Central Virginia. In fact, it's the only time the General Assembly members from Hampton Roads, every one of them have signed on to something. The only time ever. What was former Congressman Perriello's deal with that? What do you think?
Well, I think he is what he is. I mean, you know, he's a progressive, and you know, I respect somebody who respects their views, and I believe he believes in his heart of hearts that that's what he is, and that's fine. I mean, you know, it's a great country. We have people with differing views all the way across, and you know, he certainly is progressive, and he's going to oppose anything that looks like an advancement in energy. He's going to oppose anything that would involve fossil fuels, in my mind, and that's what he's doing. Having said that, let me give you the kind of statistics that went on. We had a cold snap 2 years ago, a very serious cold snap. That point, Virginia Natural Gas had 105 or 108 customers with what they call curtailment contracts. And what a curtailment contract means is you agree to have your natural gas either metered down or shut off entirely at times when demand is so high on the system that that, you know, just to keep people warm and that kind of thing. Now, some of these customers, United States Navy, the naval base at Norfolk is one of those customers. And many industrial customers sign on, and for that they get a lower rate year in and year out for their natural gas. All 108 curtailment customers were curtailed during that cold snap to the fullest extent, just to keep people warm. That's how taxed our natural gas system was. And at the same time, Dominion reached the highest megawatt usage where they've always predicted would happen in the summer. It happened during that cold snap in the winter.
Right.
By definition, when you shut off 108 commercial customers, you have just slowed the economy of Virginia down, by definition.
Was that the vortex, the polar vortex?
Yeah, the polar vortex,
okay.
right. And so what's happened now is that we don't have enough natural gas supply in our area, despite what Tom Perriello would tell you. It's just not there. Now, if you continue down the road of closing these coal plants, and even the existing regulations, pretty much without looking at the Clean Power Plan, guarantee that as they reach their life cycle, that'll be the end, and you're going to have to convert these over to natural gas. So as you make this conversion from coal to natural gas, where's that gas going to come from? Unless we build this pipeline. Now, That would be on a defensive nature. Just think of the economic prospects of bringing this low-cost source of natural gas into Virginia at a time when you're trying to talk about diversifying the economy and rebuilding the manufacturing sector. This natural gas pipeline is going to basically parallel Route 58, which in my mind should be Interstate 58. And if I have the honor and privilege of serving the governor, I'm telling you, I'm not, North Carolina wants to build an interstate parallel to it. On their side, where do you think the Economic Development Act is?
It's going to go to North Carolina.
Absolutely. But that's not going to happen. Look, that's not going to happen if I get the governor's mansion. We're going to turn I-58. We got 2 competing railroads on I-58. We're going to have a natural gas pipeline, and we got plenty of electric power. John, if I wanted to do a manufacturing development corridor, I'd run it from Martinsville right down to our port and not let North Carolina get us again. And do that. That's kind of vision. You got to paint a vision of what you want.
Look, that makes total sense, and all of us here, especially me, have been advocates for the pipeline for some time because you have to have the energy to get the jobs. Your other potential opponent on the Democratic side, Ralph Northam, Lieutenant Governor, you see him every day. 2 days ago, he doesn't respond to this. I mean, I expected him to come out and say, "Look, I'm for the pipeline. I don't know what Perriello's deal is, but I'm for continuing economic prosperity. I'm for jobs. I'm for energy. I'm going to continue with Governor McAuliffe's policies that have increased jobs in Virginia, decreased unemployment. I'm going to be the same type of governor." Yet you didn't get any response from him. And when pushed for a response, his staff said, "We haven't taken a position on it."
Well, look, the Democrats are going to have their family battle. The Republicans are going to have their family battle. I'm running against in the primary a lobbyist and a lawyer. That's who I'm running against. So Virginians got a choice in this in the Republican primary. I'm let the Democrats worry about the Democrats and let them fight it out. I'm not going to enter into their fray. I'm sitting there going, Virginians have a clear choice here. If they want a lobbyist for a governor, they got one in Gillespie. If they want a lawyer, they got one in Corey Stewart. If they want somebody who's a military veteran, in a state with 830,000 veterans, somebody that's a businessman, and everybody says they're a businessman, and I guess Riggleman is a business. I mean, he's got his little
he sells
distillery, yeah, going. But if you want somebody who's actually worked in the ship, and with worn a hard hat all his life, not for photo ops, but that's what we do in shipyards. Has worked around welders, ship fitters, pipe fitters, sandblasters. Has started a company and built it to 100 people. Bought another company with 20 people, built it up to 140 people. That's what I call a business, and doing those kinds of things. Somebody with that business background, somebody that actually knows what's going on in Richmond, 25 years of experience of knowing what the budgets are, knowing what's in the budget, knowing where the problems are. And if that's somebody you want, then I'm your candidate. And I'll say one more thing. It's not just about what you've done. It's more about what you want to do. And that's what you should be looking at. And I tried to paint. Each part of the state has different concerns, different issues. I want to make South Side all the way to Hampton Roads. I want to make that the new, what it was before, the manufacturing sector of Virginia. And I want to look at what's going on up and down the valley and saying, okay, we've got tremendous opportunities here. We got a good manufacturing base going on in the valley. You'd be surprised just how much is going on.
But
I want an inland port in Southwest Virginia, the inland port in Front Royal. If you look at the business activity going on around there, and we're going to have to make some investments in transportation.
Senator, look, though, here's where the criticism is being leveled at you right now,
Sure.
other than what Terry McAuliffe did yesterday with your Dominion compromise. Your opponents are saying, okay, you got Senator Frank Wagner going around the state advocating in a Republican primary that he wants to raise gas taxes.
Right.
You have the minimum guarantee tax for the gas tax we have now. You've also said on my show that you would be open up to another 5% tax on gasoline in order to build more tunnels, roads, bridges in Virginia for the infrastructure. How do you win a Republican primary in this environment by advocating tax increases?
All right, John, let me just say this, that we put a system into place that when you put a sales tax on fuel, okay, what you've done is you've had a tax that as the fuel prices go up, so does the amount of tax the taxpayer pays. Okay, and I put a bill in last year. I didn't put it in this year, but I put a bill in last year that says, look, when you can least afford to pay under the system we passed several years ago to address transportation, by going to a percentage tax, When you can least afford to pay it, you're going to be paying the most taxes. When gasoline gets up to $4 a gallon, $5 a gallon, you're going to be paying more and more taxes because it's a percentage of the retail price of the gasoline. So when you can least afford to pay it, you're going to pay the most. Now, while fuel prices are, what I proposed was a sliding scale, so that while fuel prices are cheap and the cost of oil is cheap, we're going to have a higher tax rate. Okay, but then it gets more expensive. It'll actually digress, so you'll pay less taxes when you can least afford to pay it, and move forward with that plan. So yeah, it would be a tax increase here, but it would be a tax decrease when people are really, really hurting, when fuel prices are expensive. But I will point out a couple of things. First of all, the gas tax in North Carolina is twice what it is in Virginia, twice. But the retail price of gasoline is the same. Cross the border sometime and go buy yourself a tank of gas in North Carolina. It's amazing. So the wholesalers and retailers will charge what they can get away with. You can get 20-cent price variance from going from an exit ramp and driving into town. It'll be 20 cents cheaper in town. Retailers will charge what they can get away with. And that's just all retail. That's just standard across the board. And what I would propose is, look, there's two options here, John. Or three options. Okay, you can do nothing, which is not an option. I don't think anybody agrees. We got transportation problems all over the state. Secondly, you can raise the revenue and build the roads. Or third, you can go out and borrow money and build a highway. Once you do that, then you're saying this. Okay, I don't have the fortitude to build the road now and ask the people, let's build the road now. I would rather go out and borrow the money, throw a toll up, and charge $2 for a dollar worth of road construction. Because once you put a toll up, here's what you're doing. You're borrowing the money. Okay, you're going to pay, say it's a $1 million project. You're going to build the project for $1 million, and now you're going to pay Wall Street another $1 million on the interest on those bonds and the tolls. And my greatest fear, and you know that I took the tolls off of Route 44 in Virginia Beach. Once you get a toll up, it's almost impossible to get anybody to take that toll back down again. So you're taking $2 out of the taxpayer's pocket to build a dollar worth of road. I think that's bad business. I think that's bad business, particularly while fuel prices are relatively inexpensive to move forward with it. John, you got to be honest with yourself, and I'm going to be honest with the voters, and that's all I know how to be, okay? If you feel like, and I know most people don't, that our transportation network's adequate for the economy today, most people would say no. Yet every candidate out there is going to say, I'm going to rebuild the economy, diversify the economy. Well, if your transportation system's not adequate for the economy you have today, how are you going to rebuild it? How are you going to diversify the economy unless you're prepared to make that investment in transportation? Can't be done. Can't be done. You can't be dishonest with people, and I don't want to ever be dishonest with people. It's not in my makeup to do that. I think it's honest to have an honest talk about what we got to do to turn Virginia around and get it on fire again and get the economy growing. I-58 doesn't happen. I-73 doesn't happen without a fiscal, stimulus to do it. We cannot open up 81 because right now it's an economic artery for the entire western region of the state, and it's full of cholesterol. And if we don't fix it, if we don't fix the economic artery and do that, and it's going to take an investment in transportation. Northern Virginia and Hampton roads are just famous for their transportation problems. And, in case of Northern Virginia, they're worldwide famous for their transportation problems. And here in Richmond, you can't drive anywhere without paying a toll. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like it. Now, I will say this. Our parents, under Eisenhower, a Republican, said, let's pony up and let's build an interstate highway system and let's not toll it. Okay? And because they did that, we have an economy today. Where would this economy today be if our parents hadn't made that investment in the interstate highway system? So, yeah, I'm going to be honest with people. I'm going to talk about it. Let them attack me, okay? If they're attacking you, that's good, okay? That means you're scratching an itch, okay? But I think we have to be intellectually honest with ourselves and say, if we want to do these things, then this is what we need to do. Now, in terms of, and I voted against tax increase after tax increase to the general funds. We have to make do with that. But every dollar we put into transportation is going to transportation. It's a trust fund, and I just want to see us reinvigorate our economy with a transportation network that's going to support our economy.
Thank you, Senator Wagner. Look, you know what? You're going to ask for tax increases. You have to defend them, and that I think you did that, and I appreciate your time. Senator Frank Wagner, Republican, Virginia Beach, good to have you with us for this segment.
Let me say this, John. When the bill I just proposed was also a tax decrease, okay? The bill I just said was, yes, a tax increase while fuel remains below $60 a barrel, but it's a tax decrease if it rises above that. So,
all right, that's
so remember that the system we have in place today will increase taxes when people can least afford to pay it. That's the law that's on the book today. Okay, and I think that's the wrong law.
All right, thank you, Senator Wagner. Always good to have you. We'll be right back, and I want to thank Frank Wagner for his spirited defense of Dominion power. Thank you, Senator. We'll be right back.